what is now item 6. That is our presentation by Art. Ms. Cronkite, I will happily deliver the floor over to you whenever you're ready.
Okay. First, Mr. Chair, members of the board, we'd like to thank everyone for allowing us to invite Addiction Recovery Care to visit us today, to be able to present to you and to the community this treatment plan that those of us, I think on my team, we have grown to really grow fond of. But before we introduce Addiction Recovery Care, Freddie Bowens, the IDA attorney, would like to start the presentation just with a little bit of an overview. I know that most of you have already heard this information before, but we just want to make sure that we're providing that information to the community as well. So if it's okay if I invite Freddie up, and then we'll introduce.
The floor is yours, Ms.
All right, thank you.
I'll fix these lights so we can see.
Good evening.
Good evening, Fred.
We are definitely glad to be in front of the board this evening on this beautiful day in Dickenson County. We have been working on this project, as this board knows, most of the time behind the scenes for the last 2.5 years, and this is kind of the coming out party for this project. And we just want to give you a little bit of information about it, give a little bit of information to the public, and allow you all are members of the public to ask us questions. So if any time that we're going through this, if you have something you want to ask us, just jump right in. Questions don't scare us. So the first thing we want to talk about, let's see if I can get this clicker to work, is problem identification. You know, we're taught in critical thinking that the first thing you have to do is identify a problem. And it's fairly easy in our county to know one of the problems are health outcomes and health factors. Now, this is a study that was performed by Ballot Health in 2021. And if you look at the top graphic there, Dickenson County is ranked among the least healthy counties in Virginia compared against all others, and you can see that we're there in the green. Below that, Dickenson County is also ranked among the least healthy counties in Virginia as far as health factors. This would be things like diabetes, high blood pressure, and drug addiction. That's what we want to talk to you about tonight. Some of these statistics are very disturbing, but we need to acknowledge them. Drug overdose deaths at a rate per 200,000 residents, Dickenson County far exceeds the Ballot Health average and the Virginia average for drug overdose for that metric. Also, unfortunately, there's also the children with NAS. NAS is neonatal abstinence syndrome, that are children that are born addicted to opioids and to drugs. You can see that Dickenson County far exceeds Virginia as far as the children who were born with this affliction. Now, as we say in my world, problem identification is fairly easy. And now we have to come up with a way to combat this. And we are here tonight to give you what we believe to be is what we call the tip of the spear whenever it comes to attacking this problem that plagues our residents. And this is a development of a 96-bed rehabilitation facility for individuals struggling with substance abuse. That's alcohol, and that's also drugs. And what we are proposing, what we've been working diligently the last 2.5 years, would be a 96-bed inpatient facility, and that program can result in an individual staying up to a year. There would be intensive outpatient services also made available to the public as part of this facility. And it would be operated by a group that we're very lucky to have come into contact with called Addiction Recovery Care. Ms. Cronkite is going to introduce several of them later in the presentation. This organization is headquartered in Louisa, Kentucky, and offers a full continuum of care, including detox, transitional, intensive, outpatient, and medically assisted and vocational rehabilitation. This facility would be located in the Red Onion section of Dickenson County, and at its peak would employ up to 50, potentially 50 of our residents, with a range of salaries up to $51,000 with benefits. And like I said, the location of this facility would be in the Red Onion area. Now, this graphic is a little harder to see, but what we've done is we've entered into an agreement with a developer called Southwest Properties, which is led by a gentleman named Greg May, who's here with me this evening. And what you have is this would be located above the old chip mill property out on the road that goes to the Red Onion State Prison. The two aqua-colored buildings, one of those buildings is a treatment building where classes and such would take place. The second building is where a cafeteria would be housed and recreational areas. And the other buildings that you see around that, and these buildings are all modular, those would be the dorm buildings where the clients would actually stay. And there would be 16 to a building. This is the first building that shows what the treatment would look like. There's also shown on there what the pharmacy where any medicines that had to be dispensed would be shown. This is the cafeteria building and also the rec room. And this is what one of the dorm buildings would look like. Now, one of the dorm buildings will also be ADA accessible. And what the public needs to understand is that this facility is not just for the very rich or for those with lots of resources. This facility will be open to everyone, and all of the financial pro formas that have been developed are based on Medicaid reimbursement. So this is for the people that need it the most, the people who are without resources, the people who need a helping hand, and this is what this facility would provide. And at this time, I'd like for Dana to introduce our friends from ARC.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Before we do that, do you all have any questions, or does the public have any questions after this part of the presentation? To go into the finances a little bit, this is being funded by a $4 million forgivable loan from the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority and a $2 million loan from the Virginia Small Business Financing Authority. The balance of the project cost is being made up between the PSA and the town of Clintwood for some utilities. We'll see if anybody has any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
This, it's estimated that it'll be a little over 7 million.
Yes, sir.
7 million plus. A question to the Board of Supervisors, because it says that it will be made up, the remainder by the Board of Supervisors and the town of Clintwood and other counties. So, as the Board of Supervisors, how do you all, what is your plan, and where is it, how do you plan on funding this?
And I can answer that, Mr. Chair.
Where's this money gonna come from?
This money is part of the coal severance money that's already allocated to the Public Service Authority. There would be no additional burden on the county. That money's already in hand and it's been supplied as a result of severance taxes.
That's to, Freddie, I think, that's to provide the water and the sewer.
That's correct. That's
and
that
the
component.
gas. I think we're putting gas in also, right?
We're not using PSA money for the gas. That's coming
Right,
out of
that's
the
coming out of another
the
fund.
loan.
But
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
what he's talking about, is that money's already set aside for PSA
That's
to
correct.
do the sewer and the water between us and the town.
And we're
Mr. Martin,
using
you
it
wanna
as a
elaborate
direct
on the
purpose
financial?
for the money.
Mr. Martin could elaborate on the financial.
I can
structure.
jump in with where Mr. Mullins left off. Of course, we have the money from Vanessa that he mentioned, the $4 million that he talked about. That's a forgivable loan that we're getting on that. The other money from VSBFA, that's in partnership with, the IDA had to be the borrower. That's in partnership with Southwest Properties for repayment of that loan. The other funds, like we have coal road funds, which is part of coal severance. A portion of those are used to bring the entrance in, because that's going to be a state highway. We're getting that built, VDOT standards coming in as we develop that park. And then also part of the coal severance funds that come in and go directly to PSA. Last year, we received more monies than budgeted, and we're coming in a little higher this year as well. So with some of those excess funds, we've worked with PSA and also the town of Clintwood to help them to bring in the sewer, to provide the main sewer line over there. The sewer comes to the park across the road, the Red Onion Park across the road. But to bring that force main over and the utilities over for the sewer, then we're using some of those additional coal severance monies that had already been appropriated and sent to the PSA for that. So there's no burden on the taxpayers or nothing that the taxpayers are going to have to come pay back, or nothing that's coming out of the general operating fund of the county or anything like that. It's all specific to this project. So,
And as Mr. Barton said, the $2 million to the VSBFA will be paid back through loan payments from the developer to the IDA, and then the IDA will make that loan repayment.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure? Do you have any other? Okay.
Any other questions?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
You talk about jobs,
Yes, ma'am.
rehabilitating them for jobs.
Yes, ma'am.
The county don't have no jobs here anyway.
Well, what I would ask you to do is wait till my brethren at ARC give further details on what they plan to do with that. They'll answer that question.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Freddie. All right, so what I would like to do is introduce our friends who are here today from Addiction Recovery Care. We have 4 individuals who came from Kentucky. They've spent the entire day with us today, meeting with other local leaders in the community. We've met with Ballot Health. We've met with EMS and Emergency Services. We have met with Sheriff Fleming. We have also met with a couple of folks from Rural Development who are here this evening. So we'd like to thank you all for being here today. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce those folks, and then if you would, the 4 of you would come up. You can sit there, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So first I'd like to introduce Miss Vanessa Keeton. Vanessa was ARC's first ever client. Since she has worked in various roles with Addiction Recovery Care, she is a graduate of Eastern Kentucky University's Bachelor's in Psychology program and uses the knowledge gained through her education to help walk others through the difficulties in life. She is married to her husband, James, who is also in recovery, and together they have a son, Jacob. Vanessa has a zest for life and can be seen easily by others around her. She believes that everyone struggling with addiction with the proper support can truly live the abundant life that they were intended to live. Mr. John Wilson. Prior to entering the recovery field, John served 4 terms as judge executive in Garrard County, Kentucky. I should have asked beforehand, sorry. Where he saw firsthand the devastating toll America's drug problem has taken on our families and communities. And just for clarification, a judge executive in Kentucky is the county administrator for Virginia. John is also a licensed attorney who served on the Kentucky Criminal Justice Council, tasked with making recommendations on Kentucky's penal code to the General Assembly, and was appointed to the Access to Justice Commission by Kentucky Supreme Court Chief Justice Minton. He has also served in various leadership roles on dozens of boards and commissions and previously served as a legislative aide in the Kentucky General Assembly. Mr. Jonathan Gay. Jonathan is currently in his 20th year practicing law with a diverse workload that includes business law and an active criminal defense practice. He believes addiction is the greatest public health challenge in America and is proud to be a part of a company that offers solutions, hope, second chances, and an opportunity to discover one's destiny. Jonathan is a father of 5, ranging in age from college to preschool. Previously serving as a foster parent, he and his wife Julie have adopted 3 children. He is a veteran of the United States Army and the Kentucky National Guard, and he graduated from Eastern Kentucky University and the University of Kentucky College of Law. Next, we have my friend Kyle Collier, who does not like to be introduced, but I'm doing it anyway. Kyle is the Director of Communications for Addiction Recovery Care. Prior to joining the ARC team, Kyle worked for WYMT as a TV producer and has been regionally recognized for his work. Over the course of the past few months, I have to say that Mr. Collier has been an integral part and liaison between Addiction Recovery Care, Southwest Properties, and myself. We have almost daily conversations, so I just want to thank you for your support for us on this project. And then as Freddie said, our developer with Southwest Properties, Mr. May, is here, so I'd like to welcome him as well. So for the start of the presentation, if we could have Ms. Vanessa come up and begin, and then go through it. Sounds good.
I'd like to thank you guys for allowing us to come and be with you all tonight. And you guys will see ARC oftentimes on our slides. It's Addiction Recovery Care. We also refer to ourselves as ARC. But I am the Vice President of Marketing for Addiction Recovery Care.
Is there a clicker?
I don't have. Oh, I was waiting on him to click. I'm sorry, guys. So this is our founder and CEO, Tim Robinson. Tim was a former is a former prosecuting attorney, and he was also a functioning alcoholic. On December 11th, 2006, that is his sobriety date. That's the day that he gave up all alcohol and has been sober ever since. After being in the prosecutor's office and seeing all of the people in the community who were struggling with alcoholism and addiction, he realized that in 2008 he was being called to do something more. So at that point, he actually gave up his title as the prosecutor in Lawrence County, Kentucky, and gave his law practice over to his partner. And he began a journey to start a grassroots ministry in Eastern Kentucky to help those who are struggling with substance use disorder. In December of 2010, he opened Karen's Place, which is a treatment facility in Louisa and for women. And he has, since then, you're going to see next where ARC has gone since then. So here's a little timeline of how things have progressed for us. So in 2006, I went over those details already. So in 2008, that is when he started the organization. In 2010, we opened Karen's Place in Louisa, Kentucky. And then in 2015, that was when Kentucky developed the residential, the Medicaid reimbursement for residential level of care, which that really changed the scope of things for the people in Kentucky. You know, we're from a very rural area. I know you guys can definitely relate to that. And that allowed access to treatment for so many more people in the state of Kentucky. ARC was prepared and ready for that day, and we were actually the first organization to admit a client at a residential level of care. In 2016, we went on to create a vocational track to go along with our recovery model, and that's now called our peer support program. So that has allowed people who are in addiction to be able to go on and give back to other people and actually become certified in the state of Kentucky in order to be able to help other people who are currently struggling with the same things that they once were. And then currently we have over 30 different programs across 21 different counties. And in 2020, we actually opened the largest center in the nation. It's in Springfield, Kentucky. It's Crown Recovery Center, and it can hold up to 750 clients. And this is going to share a little bit about my story. So do I hit play on this? Just the same button? Okay, thank you.
Welcome back. The resurgence of heroin has grown to just epidemic levels in Kentucky.
And we're joined today by Vanessa Keeton with Addiction Recovery Care. Vanessa hit a dark side from her family.
You see, as a child and a young teen, there is no one in my life who would have ever imagined I would become a drug addict.
Vanessa began shooting up pills, lost her job, stole to support her habit, and did some time in jail.
Vanessa Keeton was the first client to ever walk through the doors at Addiction Recovery Care.
Vanessa Keeton, Vice President of Marketing, grew up in Martin County and spoke about her drug addiction the first time she took drugs.
New data from the CDC shows more than 2,300 Kentuckians died due to drug overdoses in 2021.
And Vanessa, we do appreciate you speaking with us on the occasion of these troubling numbers.
And Vanessa, you have your own story to tell.
God uses that, my story, every day as hope for people who walk through the doors in any of the facilities around
You owe me money.
This is
You owe me money. That's my property.
This is mine.
I feel like there's a lot more to know about me than, you know, just being ARC's first client.
That's awesome. Can you start moving me?
I ended up just by chance being the one who decided to truly recover out loud. I decided early on that, you know, I was going to make it a mission, part of the mission in my life, that if I could do it, I wanted everyone else to know that they could do it too. And so, yeah, people, that's what I've been known for years and years.
I started using drugs and alcohol, honestly, to fit in, and this whole thing of, I was completely obsessed with the thought of wanting to be cool, and I thought that those people, I mean, you know, they were cool in my eyes at that time, which is so weird, but that's kind of what started me into dabbling in and trying drugs and alcohol, and I, you know, had no idea that I was going to be one of those people who couldn't stop, and then it ended up robbing 13 years of my life.
We would see her at Easter and Christmas, and that was about it. I never thought she would hurt anybody. That was never part of it. But the fear of waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and something told you to wake up and pray. Because you hadn't heard from her in 2 days.
In the beginning of my addiction, you know, my mom, she did not want to admit to herself or anyone else that I could possibly have had a problem. But then as the dynamic started to change and my addiction started to get worse, I mean, she saw me begin to dwindle away. And she saw the girl that was once vibrant and young and full of life, just that fire inside of me started going away. She got to the point finally at the very, very end where I wasn't allowed to come to her house anymore. And I cannot imagine as a mother telling my child that they can't come to my house anymore. But that was the best thing that she could have ever done.
I was the mother who said, you don't quit because you don't want to quit. And I understand now that was the wrong one.
They knew Vanessa. I'm a natural strategizer, so I could figure out like 4 different escape routes to anywhere I was going. Like, you know, they knew what I was doing then. They had kept up with me enough to know that there were times where I was bringing drugs back to Martin County when I was living out of town. And yeah, definitely had a target on my back.
My name is Robert David Priest. I was with Martin County Sheriff for 12 years. All the deputies knew Vanessa. They knew that she was hung around with people that took drugs and sold drugs. And if I could find a reason to get her off the street, I did that.
When I was in the courtroom for the charges that I had received in fall of 2010, Keenan Maynard was the county attorney at the time, and he had watched me grow up my whole entire life. His son went to school with my sister, and he looked at me that day in front of the judge and said, I will not have your death on my conscience. You are going to do a year in jail, or you are going to go to treatment. You know, my mom stepped in, and if it wasn't for her, I would have still never made it through the doors of Karen's place.
She was gone from my house 6 days before she called back and said, they go to bed for me. And I will go to treatment if you will help me. And I said, I'll help you if you need it. But if you don't, I'm out.
I would have never imagined that I would be where I'm at in life. My whole idea of people like me, what happened to them was they were going to be found dead with a needle in their arm one day. Like that was really the only hope that I had for my life at all. I mean, I tell people all the time I couldn't have dreamed of the life that I have today when I was a kid. Like when you're in 2nd or 3rd grade dreaming of what kind of life you want to have, the life that I could have dreamed of then wasn't nearly as good as the life I have today.
When I see her, I see hope. When I see her, I can see what God can do in people's lives.
allowed her to live through all that mess, to bring her to where she is now so she can help other people.
Whom I'm most thankful for. When it comes to my recovery journey, I'm the most thankful for my mom. If it wasn't for my mom, there's no way that I would have made it through the doors there. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm so sorry you don't have a Conchita. I'm so sorry that you don't, you know, and I tell other people, I'm like, be a Conchita for someone. You know, be that person that goes the extra mile to see that they actually make it there. You know, help them navigate the hard things when it comes to hopping through all the hoops that it takes to hop through, to make the phone calls and make the connections and all these things. Like, help someone do that, because if it wasn't for her, I would have never made it.
So that's, thank you. Oh, thank you guys. So you guys can see why ARC is so near and dear to my heart. You know, it's it definitely worked for me, and things have changed over the years, but the crisis to career model was still in place all those years ago. So it's one of those things that, you know, we're excited to be able to bring that across state lines and be able to serve Virginia in the same capacity, and can't wait to see who the Vanessa's going to be in Virginia. But I'm going to pass this over to John Wilson, and he's going to share a little bit more about our organization.
Thank you, Vanessa. My name's John Wilson. I'm market president for ARC, and I'll tell you, I will never follow that video again.
Good video.
Mr. Chairman, for 16 years I served as Garrett County Judge Executive, so I presided over our fiscal court, which is the analogous position to your Board of Supervisors. In my county, similar in size to yours. We even have a lake in our county, just like you all do, and we have a Mexican restaurant and pizza place, just like you all do. But we also have a problem with drug addiction, just like you all do. And I recognized early on in my career the effect that drugs were having on my community and what that was doing to our general fund and doing to our jail budget. And so that's how I got involved. And I will tell you, I've traveled all around the state of Kentucky opening new centers, and I don't think I've ever found a more welcoming community than here in Dickenson County. And I want to really congratulate you all before I start my presentation. From last night, checking into the hotel, to the lady at the grocery store, to the people at Pizza Hut, and your employees here are some of the finest that I've come across in any of my years in county government and in my position as ARC. You really are to be commended for the leadership that you all have taken on the Board of Supervisors. Quite frankly, it's extremely impressive, and I am just in awe of the professionalism that I've seen out of your county employees today. So you all are to be commended for that. And I'm not even asking for anything, so that's heartfelt. So I want to talk a little bit about ARC. All our ARC facilities are duly recognized. We're accredited by CARF. It's the Commission on Accreditation for Rehabilitation Facilities for Drug and Alcohol Treatment Centers, and also ASAMS, and we talked about that a lot today. That's the American Society of Addiction Medicine. And why these are important is, in the recovery world today, there's a lot of people who are not providing the same type of service that we provide at our center, and I like to say that there's some bad actors. Some of them are probably properly motivated. They might have had someone in their family close to them affected by drugs or alcohol, and maybe had a death, and they want to help. Maybe they're religiously motivated, and that's on the good side. And then on the bad side, you have people who are really in it for profiteering off people at their weakest moment, and so they're not really providing the same level of services. And I want to make it clear that ARC is a healthcare facility. We are duly accredited, and anyone that you're dealing with when you're trying to send a loved one to treatment, look for these certifications, because that tells that they are providing legitimate services. They come down to our centers and they do audits and evaluations, and it's a strenuous process to get these. But this is how you can be sure that there is appropriate treatment, evidence-based outcome treatment that's taking place, and that's what we are going to bring to Dickenson County. So the 6 CARF accredited areas are residential. That's I'm going to give a little bit of a history, or a little bit of education for everybody who might not be familiar. Residential that's kind of the first phase of treatment. It's our highest level of care that we plan to offer initially here in Dickenson County. That's someone who's right off the street. They're maybe just used drugs, within even hours or even right before they walk into our facility. That's our RTC level of care. Then as they step down, it's what we call PHP. It's the partial hospitalization program. It's a lower level of care based on the acuity of their addiction. Next is the IOP, intensive outpatient, and then outpatient. And then we also do the detoxification withdrawal management and our targeted case management. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the next slide here, well, future slide. So this kind of shows our footprint across Kentucky. We were started in eastern Kentucky, kind of up near the top there, and we've spread through eastern Kentucky. We've headed west. You can see our footprint there. And then this year we plan to open, of course, you see Dickenson County highlighted in the upper right-hand side there, along with we plan to open a center in Ohio with an outpatient center in Columbus. We just closed on a property in Louisville, Kentucky, then one in Owensboro. And then, of course, there's a hospital that we've acquired right outside of Ashland, Kentucky. So this is our footprint where we're currently providing services today. So our model, we believe that, and the science shows that the best way to have success in long-term recovery is contingent on two things. Number one, it's the length of time in treatment. And number two, it's the vocational opportunities after treatment. And so we kind of merge those two together, and we have an extremely long-term inpatient program here. So you start out in phase one, that's that RTC level of care. It's generally about 30 days. So that's somebody right off the street. They're going to come in, they're in active addiction. We call it our detox phase. It's a little different than the highest level of detox, but someone can come in active addiction. We have a heavy medical and clinical component here. We're trying to get the client stabilized. We want to address any medical issues that they may have, and we want to address the underlying behavioral issues that oftentimes leads to addiction. So a lot of these folks who are in addiction, there's a lot of times there's underlying trauma, there's abuse, there's impulsivity issues. We want to have the clinicians work with them to address those underlying issues to help them have long-term success in their recovery. Our second phase, I call this the recovery skills phase. We give these men and women the tools necessary to stay sober when they leave treatment. It's generally about 45 to 60 days. Here in the phase two, we introduced the peer support component, and then we also introduced targeted case management. The case managers are to help our clients have a successful life afterwards, and that includes everything from dealing with family court issues. There might be outstanding criminal court issues, family counseling. A lot of these guys and girls coming in, they don't have any ID cards, they don't have social security cards, they don't have housing, so we're trying to work with them on a life plan for when they leave treatment and what that looks like so that they can have success. Phase three, I call the life skills phase, and that completes out 6 months. And what this is that a lot of times folks enter into addiction maybe as a teenager in their younger years, and really the brain just kind of stops development at that point. And what happens is that we find that they just miss out on those kind of soft skills, those life skills a lot of us take for granted. And so it's very hard to assimilate back into being a tax-paying citizen when you just lack those kind of what we consider common sense. So this third phase, and we start talking about what the career possibilities are for the folks there. So that completes the first phase of our 6 months in treatment. And then the second phase is our vocational component. And the vocational component is on-the-job training, essentially. And what that does, we have a myriad of opportunities for clients, so they can do everything, and Vanessa talked a little bit about that earlier, but we have everything from a accredited college where they can take peer support classes. We have an ASE certified mechanic program where they can come in, and then when they leave, they're certified as an ASE mechanic. We have a welding partnership with the trade union there in Eastern Kentucky where they do 6 months with us and they get a year towards their journeyman certification. We have a culinary arts program. We have a general maintenance. So whatever those clients want to do, they will have a job when they leave, and they will be prepared for that, and they actually apply for that. And I'm going to talk about another one of our partnerships here a little bit later, but we call ours Crisis to Career. And truly, like Vanessa said, folks come in crisis, total chaos, and they leave with a career, which is important. And we'll talk about your question here in a little bit here too. So in 2020, we opened Crown Recovery Center at the St. Catherine's College campus in Washington County, Kentucky, just kind of outside of central Kentucky, about an hour from Lexington. This is what we believe it to be the nation's largest drug and alcohol treatment center. And we acquired the St. Catherine's College campus, 52 acres. We have a 750-bed facility there. as we've kind of grown this, we have 550 men receiving treatment today, and then we have another about 150 interns and staff who are living there and providing, with the workforce opportunities. So it's a functioning college, essentially. The men are living in the dorms, and all levels of care are met here, and then they walk to classes in their groups and receive their medical treatment and graduate out. So we're very proud of what's taking place at Crown. So this is kind of one of our partnerships that we have, and I wanted to talk about this. This is interesting. We've been working with private employers to meet their needs, and what we found is in Washington County, which is a rural county, it's actually smaller than Dickenson County. There's just 11,000 people that live there. But their largest employer is TOYOTOMI. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Toyota. They have capacity for 500 jobs at this plant, and they're down 65, and they can't find workers. So they're actually flying in welders from Japan and housing them on short-term visas. And they recognize that we have graduating, so many people out of Crown every day, every month, essentially, who can pass a drug test and who are eager to get back into the workforce. And so we've got a program with TOYOTOMI where guys, this is part of their phase 4 of their internship. So we're still providing the drug testing services. We're still providing peer support. We're providing the recovery services. We're providing level supervision. We're doing the transportation, but we're bringing them into the factory every day. And these guys are working. They keep their own paycheck. We're doing financial literacy with them. We're doing, all the services that you can provide, and we're meeting the need. So truly, it's an economic development engine, and we'll talk a little bit about that to answer your question, ma'am. But this is I'm going to show you a short video here that we've produced with TOYOTOMI.
At Addiction Recovery Care, we believe from the moment we receive a call asking for help to the client's first steps through our doors to begin their treatment, the opportunities are endless. And the truth is, not all treatment is created equal. Here at Addiction Recovery Care, we believe in not only helping the client recover from their substance use disorder, but also recovering their life with practical skills that will give them an advantage when they go back into the world. Simply put, we believe every client should have the opportunity to go from crisis to career. It's what makes us different. As we've grown in order to help more individuals, so have our workforce partnerships. Addiction Recovery Care is proud to partner with TOYOTOMI America, located in Springfield, Kentucky. There, right now, you can find former and current addiction recovery care clients who have been given opportunities to build back their lives.
Some of the guys are starting out low-level, production-level team members, but you can already see that they have the drive and the willingness to work on.
We are truly seeing that people are rebuilding their lives, and they're starting with that opportunity of work, and that is making a little money, making them, return back to society, and breaking out of that generational poverty that most of them have wound up experiencing through their addiction crisis.
Second chance employers like TOYOTOMI are making a difference in Kentucky and setting an example for other businesses that want to be part of the solution. As we at ARC continue helping others find their potential, potential is also being found on the manufacturing line.
I never heard of crisis to career, never been to treatment before, but the crisis to career part was it stuck out to me, and it definitely presented opportunities that I cannot imagine the treatment center would offer.
Everybody deserves a second chance. Some people get third, fourth chances, but it means a lot to me to, not fail this time.
I've been counted out. I've been in addiction probably 12, 13 years, and it was just a repeating cycle of catastrophe in my life. And I think some of my family had lost hope, and they're starting to regain some of it back.
ARC's Crisis to Career approach to long-term recovery has been a collaborative effort. Thanks to the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce Foundation and their Fair Chance Academy, TOYOTOMI and other companies are receiving training, knowledge, and resources to help them welcome people in recovery back into the workforce.
CEOs and HR managers are given a glimpse of some of the struggles of returning citizens into their community and the workforce. By the end of the Fair Chance Academy, employers will better understand substance use disorder and best practices to help solve issues within their organization that may cause a disconnect between managers and their employees.
We're not practicing what we preach.
if we're not doing our corporate social responsibility, meaning having a positive environment or sending a positive way to our community. We have several team members that have been wonderful. I mean, you couldn't imagine how good of work these gentlemen are.
Partnerships like these are what makes us different at Addiction Recovery Care, and they are why we have a track record of success in treating substance use, helping people re-enter the workforce, and building back Kentuckians' lives so they can discover their true destiny. For more information about our Crisis to Career model, visit www.arccenters.com.
So one of our other centers I want to talk about was Karen's Place. This is actually my favorite place that we've got. It's up in right in Ashland, Kentucky, and we talked a little bit about. Freddie talked a little bit about the effect that drugs have on a baby when it's in utero. So we opened Karen's Place Maternity Center, and we've had over 250 babies who have been born there in the last 4 years. And what's great about this place is 76% of the babies who are born. So, but what happens is a mother comes in active addiction. She's pregnant, and she will come in there, begin receiving services. She'll begin receiving treatment. We're actually share a parking lot with King's Daughters Hospital. We'll take her to her OBGYN appointments. When she gets ready to deliver, we'll take her across the street. She'll deliver. 76% of those babies come back within 5 days, which is great because the average is over 20 days in the NICU unit to someone who's in active addiction. And what really gets me about this place is I know the effects of a brain soaked in opioids on that baby, and I know that we're making a real difference, generational difference in Eastern Kentucky with the moms who are coming into our center, including the director of the center who came from jail several years ago and came through treatment. She got better. She started as third shift res staff. Which is pretty much the job nobody wants. It's the entry level job, and she's worked her way up to be the director. She's probably got 25 or 30 employees there, and she's a member of the Chamber of Commerce now in Kiwanis, and that's what we're trying to do at ARC. This next slide kind of shows some data there. It's a 4.8 days is our average right now. So we're proud of this slide. We feel like we're making a difference in Kentucky, and this is the exact same thing that we are wanting to bring to your area, Virginia. So since we opened our doors in 2010, the very first client with Vanessa Keeton walked through the doors, we've had almost 55,000 people have been served in that time. And just last year, we had 7,600 people walk through our residential doors at one of our centers and receive some level of care, and about 2,500 received outpatient care in 2022. So we know we're making a difference in Kentucky, and we're looking forward to doing the same thing here in Virginia. I'm going to turn it over to John Gain. We will do our questions at the end, okay? But I do have an answer for you. Thank you.
Good evening, and we appreciate again the opportunity to be here. I just want to echo what John said earlier. Your staff have just been terrific. I'm blown away by Larry and Dana and Freddie, and we just are really grateful for the warm welcome that you've given us. So thank you very much. Dana mentioned that I spent a lot of years as a defense attorney. I actually turned the corner and need to update my biography. I'm now a prosecutor in Kentucky, so I'm an assistant Commonwealth attorney, which is a part-time job for me. There are full-time assistant Commonwealth attorneys, but I'm a part-time prosecutor. And so I come at the drug problem from, though, a career of either representing people charged with felony drug crimes or prosecuting them now. I'm enjoying the prosecution side more because you have more leverage and more control over your docket than you do as a defense attorney. But I will tell you that the one thing that people need to recover from addiction is a job, is an opportunity to change those, as they say in the addiction world, playgrounds, playmates, and playthings. They can't build a new life without a career. So that's where we specialize. We're nationally recognized with our model, Crisis to Career. The BEAS program, Building Evidence on Employment Strategies, which is a federal subsidiary, has recognized what ARC has done in the past and is studying our work. We're very proud of that. There's a picture from this past year, Congressman Hal Rogers, who's one of the members of the House Appropriation Committee and one of the subcommittee chairmen, one of the Appropriation Subcommittee chairmen, very well-respected congressman. I think he's now the dean of the congressional delegation. Has been in Congress since 1980. He has recognized the scale of the drug problem in Kentucky and has created a series of programs, part of the reason why ARC came into existence, quite frankly. And he recognized our founder and CEO, Tim Robinson, at the National Prescription Drug Summit in Atlanta. So we're very proud of the national portfolio that we have. To bring this down to you, we have over 900 jobs. That's 900 full-time employees that are currently in existence at ARC. We have a couple hundred more probably interns and people who are part-time employees. So we're very proud of our job growth. Anytime we go into a new community and open a new center, we hire more people, and we ultimately both increase the community's capacity, economic development, and we also create opportunities for those in addiction, for those in recovery. 50% of our graduates are in recovery. I'm sorry, 50% of our employees are in recovery. So we've got over half of our employees at Addiction Recovery Care have been there, done that. They've got the battle scars to show, just like Vanessa. And we're very, very proud of that. 33% of our employees are graduates of Addiction Recovery Care. And when I say graduates, they're not simply working the entry line level positions. They're vice presidents. The number 2 person in the company is a recovered physical therapist who went to treatment at Belgrove Springs in Fleming County when he was on the verge of completely crashing his life, rebuilt his life, and is now I think he's senior vice president. I should know the title better. But
Administrative officer.
Yeah, it's chief administrative officer. That's right. We're very proud of the roles that these folks attain. They're not simply doing entry-level work. So moving on, we have the Millard College. We've started the college. We've recognized that we need to be proactive, and we can't just depend on the traditional channels for many of our people that are in recovery, many of our people that are going through the programs. We started work-ready certificates in general studies, carpentry, welding, and peer support specialists. And peer support specialists is sort of the entry line level for the entry level positions for many of our employees. They work their way up from peer support to center director and so on and so on. So we're very proud of that. We also had job training for auto mechanics, maintenance, chaplaincy, culinary arts, and more. We have multiple enterprises. We found that we can't simply put folks to work only in healthcare. Healthcare is our bread and butter, but we've also found opportunities for others. So we started Masterpiece Kitchen, Three Sisters Catering, Masterpiece Cafe, Paint and Cal Art Gallery, the Garden Theater, Mountain Movers Theater Company, Pioneer Rural Health, Millard School, which is a small Christian school in Louisa, Kentucky, and we have therapists and people on staff to help students with special needs, so we're very proud of that. John Wilson started the fitness center at Crown, Second Chance Lawn and Care, and Second Chance Auto. So those are our enterprises, and we are very proud of the work that they do. Quick overview of some of our stats. Over 5,000 clients transported to treatment. Last year, over 6,000 admits. So of those 6,200 admits, 5,200 we transported. So that gives you a sense of where these folks are coming from when they have to have transportation to get to treatment. So we're very proud of that. We've driven almost 100,000, almost a million miles last year. Over 1,100 oil changes. So on, so on, so on. You know, you start looking at our eggs consumed. You start looking at the gallons of milk consumed. We are going to make a difference in your local economy. I'm sure that your economy, like our economy in Eastern Kentucky, has suffered, and we will make a difference in terms of the economic activity. For more information, you can follow this barcode. You can go to our website, arccenters.com/Virginia. And I'm going to turn it back over to Vanessa, and she's got a very special guest who came along and is going to address you as well. So.
I want to introduce to you guys Mia Stanley. She is from right here in Clintwood, and she is going to tell you guys a little bit about her story, so you guys can have someone from right here in your town that you can hear a little bit about tonight.
Thank you. Hello, my name's Mia Stanley. Some of you know me. Some of you see me in my very worst, I will say that. But I'm a recovering addict. I have been in recovery for 5 years. I work for ART now. My story's a lot like Vanessa's, a whole lot like Vanessa's. I started in 2000. I got addicted to Oxycontin. I had no idea that it would destroy my life and everything in it. My family's life, it took their life too. But unlike Vanessa, I didn't learn my first time in trouble. I was in and out of jail so many times, but I didn't have ART, to go through either. But I was in and out of jail. The first time I went to jail was over here in the county jail. There was 5 women in there, 5 of us. 3 of those women are dead now from drugs, I know, but 5 ladies in there. Now, 2018, the last time I went to jail, Will was my attorney.
So proud to see you.
There was probably, 200. How many, Will?
Oh, there was.
Yeah, in Wise County. Of course, I've been in Hayside too, in Dickenson County Jail. But, that's a big difference. So obviously something's not working that we're doing here. It's just not working. I graduated drug court in 2019, and I didn't look back. I had that time behind me, and I said, I'm moving forward. But I was starting to get stale. There was nothing for me to do here. And I found ART. And thank goodness I found ART, because they gave me a job. Me, a 3-time felon, they gave me a job. They took a chance on me. And I'm so grateful for that. So that's something also that ART can do for this area. They can come in, and people that do drug court, they do complete drug court, it's going to give them a purpose. They can go up there and work, because drug court cannot accommodate everybody. There's only so many that can gets accepted, and you have to be in trouble to go to drug court. How wonderful that you don't have to be in trouble before you can get treatment. And so I'm excited. I'm excited. I have waited on this for 20 years, you all. So let's embrace it. This is wonderful. We are so blessed to have them here. I see these ladies come in, and they are broken, just like I was. They were broken. They have lost everything. Their families, their everything. But I see them, there's a day comes that I see them and they light up, their face lights up, they clean up, they take a shower, and I know something's clicking inside of them. So I just want y'all to know that it's time for a change in our little town. It's time for a change. Let's get our people back. Hope is what ART, they say hope. And if you don't have hope, you give up, basically. And that's what's happened to our area. These people don't have hope. They've lost their kids. You put them in jail, they lose their children, they lose their home, they lose their relationships with their family, they lose their husbands. What more do they have? They give up. So they keep on using, and it gets worse and worse and worse. So let's embrace this chance we have and get our people back. Thank you.
Proud of you, honey.
Me, I'm not going to ever follow you again either. That was awesome. That's our presentation, Mr. Chairman and Board. We're ready to answer any questions. I do want to address your question, ma'am. One thing that we have seen, we operate centers in a lot of rural communities. That's primarily where we are. And one of the issues, and I'll take my ARC hat off and put my judge executive hat on in a minute, and or the county administrator hat. One of the things when we would try to recruit people to our community, new employers, we had a problem, and again, my community looks just like yours. Our problem is we didn't have workers to fill the jobs, and so these employers are going elsewhere. And so part of the idea here is that we will be producing people who are in that working age, you're in that demographic who need jobs, and we're going to look at the housing component, and that will be part of the pitch that your community makes to future employers that we have jobs. The other thing is, if you heard earlier, and they didn't talk about this, but I'll say it, it's probably get in trouble for it, but they're going to use that money running these utilities up on that road there, Red Onion Road. That makes it more cost possibly for new businesses to come up there, because now there'll be utilities up there. So this is going to affect your community in other ways, just more than just addressing a drug problem. And then, like John said, we're going to have 96 people at your facility here that are receiving treatment, and I'll tell you, the employees that we're going to have there, the families that are coming to visit, you will never again go to a restaurant in Dickenson County that you don't see an ARC employee eating there. And I'm telling you, there's going to be a big difference in your community for the positive. You're going to see, we're going to be spending money in your grocery store. We're going to be hiring people in your community. They're going to be traveling here for work. So there will be a positive impact. And I'll tell you, from your side, Mr. Chairman, we learned today about the pressures on your sheriff's office and with your drug court. You've got people who are maybe don't complete drug court and then they're going to jail. And I have no idea what your per diem here is. But this is an opportunity where people may be struggling with drug court and they can do a direct admit into our treatment program, so that's going to save your jail budget. And then we've also got a problem, Sheriff Fleming told us today about the number of man hours that they're spending taking people on these ECO orders and TDO orders and driving people. You've got sheriff's deputies who are leaving your county for 8 hours one way to take people to Virginia Beach. But these are people that we may be able to help at our center. That's going, every time you have a sheriff that's not leaving your county to do that, that's making Dickenson County safer, and it's saving your taxpayer dollars. So we feel like that there's secondary and third and fourth effects that are positive. It's not just the drug addiction that we're addressing, but there's going to be a difference in your community. You'll feel it, and I hope you'll appreciate us in a number of years. And we think it's going to be the start of a great partnership. What other questions do you have? I love to talk, so just throw them at me. Freddie told me he gave me a limit tonight, so.
I appreciate your testimony, Ms. Stanton, and also Vanessa. I do, I commend you. And I'm not just your average Joe that don't know what's going on, because I've been there personally, and I've also worked in the system. And my question was, and you guys, I thank you, you're all over it, is there any plan to work in conjunction with the regional jails in this area as the inmates begin to draw down to their final, say, 6 months that they're serving on their sentence? Because I worked as a counselor and I worked as an officer, and last as a counselor, and there's definitely such a need in this area, because there's none of us in here who deny that. I mean, really, we can't.
So yes, and I'll tell you, and I again, I just want to really brag on Dana and Larry and Freddie and everybody. They have put together, they have thought through so many of these things, and I've just been blown away by, again, the professionalism that I've seen. Usually when we come into a community, we're having to make cold calls with these people, but we were meeting not only with like your EMS director this morning, your director of emergency management, your sheriff was in there this morning. We've met with all kinds of people from this community today. The jail is something that we feel like we can make a difference. We've made a big difference in other communities. Let me get on my soapbox a little bit, and I know they're taking a deep breath. There's 3 reasons we lock people up in this country, right? Number 1, they're a threat to society, like Charles Manson, right? It doesn't matter what his addiction problem is, he needs to be locked up to keep us all safe, right? Then you've got your second group that have created a victim. If they've done a home invasion or bank robbery, you also don't care about their addiction either. They need to be punished for what they've done, right? And then we've got the third group who we put in jail for correction or reform, right? And that's not happening in the jails today. If it were, we'd still just see 5 people in the jail, and those other 3 women that you were there with may be still with us. Those are the ones that we're interested in ARC. So we want to get involved on the front side, and we want to divert people away from the jail at the front side. And so where you work now at Lydia's house, when I was judge executive, we have inmates cleaning the courthouse. I asked, how did you all, they were cleaning my office there, and I said, what got you in jail in the first place? All 3 were from drugs. One of them told me about her uncle, who was the chief bailiff at our judicial center, very, very prominent family in my community. And I was curious what happened to her. She, is a story that we're all familiar with, and she was in and out of jail, kids being raised by the grandparents. And it blew my mind because I'm running the police department, and I know that we're taking a real hard look. We're going to crack down and we're going to be tough, and that'll scare people away from doing this. That's not what was happening. We were just filling the jail, and it's a revolving door. We're arresting, incarcerating, and releasing the same people over and over again. It's not working. So we sent that woman to Lydia's house, and a year later, she wrote me a letter and thanked me for saving her life. She was sober. She had a job of managing a dollar store in Lexington. And we started diverting, working with the county attorney, we started diverting a lot of people, and it really helped our jail budget quite a bit because, and you know what, not only did it help our jail budget where we weren't sending people who didn't need to be in jail, the recidivism rate went down. And so we were not seeing the same people. Now, that doesn't work for everybody, and we all know that. We all know people have been through recovery and it didn't work, right? But it does, and it works more. It works in higher percentages than people who are just locking up and not really providing services to. So, you go ahead.
You don't have to go do art to work at least, or for art. You don't have to go through the program. So therefore, when people do get out of jail, they're incarcerated, they can come there, whether they have feelings, if they want to get their life straight, and they want to remain clean, they can come to art and get a job, which will help them stay out of jail. You see, that will help us a lot. Because when they don't have jobs, that's when the issue starts. Because they can't pay their child support, they can't live. How can you live without a job? So,
That's right.
As Miss Sandy said, it got stale. She
Right.
couldn't, there's no jobs around here, she got stale. And I've heard so many people say, I got clean. Yeah, for so long, and then I got stale. Because there's nothing to do.
So
There's no job.
You're right. So what we need to do is we need to provide people jobs, and we need to help them create a life that they don't need to escape from. And that's what we're doing at ARC. And that's, I think, the proof's in the pudding by what we're doing. And not everybody comes to work for us, that we do find them careers. Maybe they might not all be in Dickenson County, but you're going to see this community's growing and the economy's growing in the world. And so there are jobs out there. There's huge needs everywhere. They may not come back to this community, but there's going to be jobs here, and we are going to create a lot of jobs. And I'll tell you, and this kind of hokey, but I know Dickenson County is Virginia's baby. I know
You've grown up. Okay?
You've grown up, but the reality is for us, this is the tip of the spear for us, and we think that there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of need in Virginia, and we plan to make a big presence here over the next several years. And so this will be our baby here in Virginia, and we're going to grow, and we're going to do great things together. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm more inspired today by the people here than I have been at any center that we visited, and that's true. You've heard me do these speeches all the time. I've never said that.
No, this may inspire me to come out of retirement.
I know. I was like, you're a clinician. I want your phone number. You're a counselor. I want your number after the meeting.
Mr. Chair, could I add something to that too?
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. Cummey, you had some really good questions. One thing I want to share with the public as well, our regional jail budget each year costs the county $1.2 million out of the county budget. And as we said, a lot of these are drug offenders that are going in. They're spending their time, they're not really being reformed. They get back out, go to the same environment that they were in before, the same friends. They can't find employment. Next thing you know, they're in trouble again. They're back before the judicial system. They're back in jail. We're hoping we can reduce these costs as time goes on. We've had conversations with Judge Patton. We've got another meeting with Judge Patton next week, or on the 8th, I think. He's very interested in this. We're hoping that they will use this as another option. In lieu of incarceration, they can be sentenced to go to this facility. That'll save the taxpayers money, on our jail costs, as well as the recidivism rate, if we can try to actually truly get them rehabbed and bring them out. And of course, Ms. Comer, you brought up a really good comment about the jobs. We don't have a lot of jobs here and things. Of course, we don't have a lot of workforce either, so it kind of goes hand in hand. It puts more of a task on us. There's a lot of projects we're working on right now, and we have a lot of developable land in the area where ARC is. And it's possible, they custom tailor, and I'm excited about the part we're going into. We've been working, ever since I've been here on this project. We're getting to a part now where we're going to get to branch out and talk to employers in this area, look at what potential workforces are that we can partner with them, and they tailor work programs with them. And of course, we have to kind of be the segue between them and the employers on, how to get them to change the hiring policies, how to get them to, the supports that they need and the supports that these clients need to get there. But at the same time, with some of the land across the road, we've got 98 acres across the road we're developing right now with grant money, getting all the utilities there, the entrances. And one big plus, there's some stuff we're working on, but if we can train a workforce for people, everybody's struggling with that. If we can attract an employer here for whatever skilled labor they might need, we could train them and provide employment for them like they're doing at TOYOTOMI. So I think, we're on the cusp of this right now, and I think, better things are to come. So I'm very excited about this possibility.
And the work that you've done, Larry and Freddie, with our drug court treatment director and our circuit court judge, to pile on a little bit, Mr. Comer, he'll be able to draft his orders wherein the individual defendant can come out of court or out of jail and be ordered judicially to enter into treatment, or not even ordered to incarceration, ordered to the treatment in a sentencing order. So our hope is that we have covered and dotted all the I's and crossed the T's, and I'm sure there's going to be some things we've missed, but we've worked very hard with our court system and our vibrant drug court program. But Ms. Stanley says it very well. There are people that flunk out, and it's unfortunate, but I think that with this program and this facility, we're going to have a net for everyone, and people that are not even criminal defendants or criminally charged, for anyone that's suffering through addiction. And as was very well stated, we hope that this has ancillary benefits to our restaurant owners, to the rest of our community and county. And so I'm personally very thrilled to have this ground broken very soon, to have a shovel. That's what kind of my theme, shovel ready. Let's put a backhoe on something and let's start breaking ground, and I can't wait. And so I'm very happy.
Amen.
And I hope that, Mr. Comer, I hope we've answered all your questions here tonight about any of this. We want to be transparent about everything we've done with this project.
Can I just follow up on that very briefly? So I've always believed, I don't have a background in addiction, but I've always heard, that they have to be ready before they can get help. That's actually not true. It's not been my experience. Vanessa did not want to go to treatment. She was kicking and screaming before, literally trying to kick the windshield out of the car. What's interesting is our justice-involved clients end up staying, they have better outcomes than the people who come in voluntarily. Because they have to.
Yeah.
So what happens is at the beginning, we always like to say the reasons you go to treatment is, your livelihood, your liver, your lover,
children,
or the law, right? And when the law sends, the thing is, if your lover sends you, you may say, look, hey baby, I miss you, and I want to come home, and are going through withdrawals, and you leave. But the difference is, if you're looking at I'm leaving to go to jail, they're staying, and they're staying past that initial 72 hours when most people do want to leave, and then the next is the 7 days. And once they get past that, our justice-involved clients are staying past their court orders, and they're even having better long-term recovery outcomes. So it's fascinating to me, and that's been a real thing. So we're looking forward to working with your judges. And really, Mr. Chairman and supervisors, this would not be possible without you and your foresight, and all of you are to be really commended for recognizing the need in your community and how aggressively you've pursued this and how thoroughly you've pursued this. And I've said it a million times, but I'm just blown away by what's taking place here. I wish we had more elected officials like you in Kentucky.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other questions?
We're looking forward to it.
Is there any other questions from our
Ms.
community?
Stanley, where do you work? I work at Lydia's house in Cumberland, Kentucky.
Cumberland, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. I live in town now. I grew up here
Yeah.
in Dickenson County, in Clintwood on County Ridge.
Yeah.
My daddy back there.
I know you do. I know your family, and I've heard of you, but I've not met you personally.
Yes. Well,
So it touched me very much to see how well you're doing, because I know you've had a struggle and your family's had a struggle. And it touched me, and you too, Vanessa. It's very touching. What do you do at Lydia's house?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm at the bottom of the barrel right now. I'm third staff.
Not for very long.
Third shift red staff. But, the ladies come in, they are, they're fresh off the street. So we say love them back to life. I cry with them, I talk to them, I get them up in the mornings, I keep them in line, I make them come down, for breakfast, I keep them on a schedule. Just, whatever they need, basically, I'm there to do whatever. That's what I do right now,
So Mia will be hopefully working at our facility here when we open it. That's her goal. Last night we went to dinner with me, and it was hilarious. There were some police officers there. You don't care for me to tell this, do you? And the police officers came over, and they were talking to us, and she said, "Would you know who I am?" She said, "That guy arrested me." And he came over. She said, "You know who I am, don't you?" And he looked at her. He said, "No, I don't think I do." And she gave her name, and he almost fell over. He said, "I can't believe how good you look and how great you're doing." And he was almost teared up, and he said, "We really need this in our community." And so there's a city police officer, there's some sheriff's deputies there with him, and one of the state troopers. And your story has inspired me. I got teary-eyed when you were talking. So we're very proud of her too.
You know, I love my community, I love my hometown, I love the people in it, and I'm gonna give my heart and soul up there to this facility. And, you know, I wanna see it better here. I'm tired of this, you know? I'm tired of taking lives, I'm tired of destroying families. I know you are ready for a change too.
Well, if anybody, everyone in this room has probably been touched by drug addiction. I've had people in my family die from drug addiction. And I just wish they had this opportunity instead of they're dead because they had an addiction. And people say that, a lot of people will say you're weak, you've heard it all. But I think we all have some kind of addiction if we'll confess up.
That's right.
And I thank you for coming here today to express you because me. Like I said, I know you by reputation. And now I can say that you have a good reputation. So that makes me feel good, does my heart good. Sure. I'm a hugger.
My mommy talks about you, so that's.
I have a question.
Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I came
When
through
someone
when you
completes your
graduated.
program,
Yes, you did.
I did.
are they on, I don't even know what this drug is, methadone or whatever now that replaces prescription drugs or illegal drugs?
Suboxone.
Whatever.
Yeah.
When you're talking about clean, are they clean or are they?
That's a great question. So we do offer medically assisted treatment, and what that means for us is we do a Suboxone taper for people who need it, okay? And Vanessa can maybe talk about that a little more, but what that is when someone comes in with an opioid addiction, the withdrawals are extremely painful, and what happens is most people leave when they're doing that. And so what we do is we'll prescribe a small dosage of Suboxone, and we put them on a taper where they taper down to 0. And then what we do is after they have a certain 5 days of clean, we encourage them to do a shot called Vivitrol. And what that does is it eliminates cravings. It's also an opioid blocker, so there's no euphoria and it's prescribed for opioid use disorder and alcohol use disorder. And so those are 30-day injections. It's non-narcotic. There's no high from that. Businessmen are using that during the Super Bowl and the Kentucky Derby so that they, don't drink, during those times when they're feeling so it eliminates the craving. And so that's what we do. But the numbers of people who are still using Suboxone when they leave our facility is extremely small, because really it's, I better not go into my personal feelings on that, but it is extremely small.
I've heard, or the rumor is, or whatever, that a lot of the clinics don't really taper you off.
Now, we do, and our numbers are, so at one of our facilities, like at Crown, for instance, Crown has 3 licensed facilities on that one campus, okay? And in the last one, it's 150, the one for our latest phase treatment, we have 150 clients. I think there's 11 who are on Suboxone in their last phase of treatment. And the idea is really to try to taper them off. Now, that doesn't work for everybody. And really on those, there's an injection called Sublocade. That's the same type of drug, but it's like a time release. But really the idea is that when you leave, you're clean, and for that means abstinence for most. Did I answer that okay? That's a difficult, there's a politically correct way to answer that, but anyway, that's, yeah.
We also hopeful for drug, for women as well.
We are too, and we know that that's a real need here. And I'll tell you, your folks here have done everything but put us in a chokehold today about that. So They not only like drove us to the property and showed us, and then they also have some other ideas. And they said, let's look at this right before dinner, and they wanted to show us that too. So they are working hard for other opportunities. But yes, there's a need for women here, and we are on that. And we also, I want to mention, we have Greg May here tonight. Greg is our developer on this project. He also developed our men's center in Pikeville, Kentucky, which I want to extend an invitation for any of you all to come down and see what we're doing. It's similar to what we're proposing here. And then he's also the developer on White Oak Hill, our facility in Inez, Kentucky, for women. And his wife told him he better open a center for women or else he was going to be sleeping in the doghouse. Is that right, Greg? Just your wife said if you didn't open a center for women with us, you were in the doghouse. And so.
Yeah, when I got through working on the first rehab center at River Place at Millard High School, I was pretty tired because I did a lot of work myself. And so I go home and she's fussing about me all that time while I'm gone. Then when we go and we have the grand opening and stuff, we go home and we're eating dinner one night. She says, "Now, what are you going to do for the women?" And so I immediately started, and a year later, we had a 120-bed women's facility over in Knott County. So the same thing, you know, my personal story is I lost my brother to drugs. I run a utility company. I didn't know anything about rehab, other than I knew there was a drug problem. But, you know, the Lord's blessed me enough now to see the real picture and what we can do to help each other. And I've just been very blessed. And so Freddie and Larry and Dana and I have all talked from day one. We're not going to stop with the men. We're going to work forward. Actually got some plans already in the pot to do a women's facility.
I'm telling you, your people here are tenacious. It's like a pack of pit bulls, and you come in there and they're working us over pretty good.
I feel good. I'm glad.
So, any other questions? Those are great questions, by the way. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you so much. Vanessa said her fear was to end up with a needle in her arm dead. That's how I found my brother, June of 21. So thank y'all for coming in and doing this.
Thank you.
What I'd like to say comes from the heart of a Dickenson County resident, small business owner, and a therapist as well. We've worked to help families and people, you know, the long-term effects of this is going to be amazing. We see the trauma in the kids' eyes, we see the trauma all around us, you know, we're trying to work to help with that. But what you guys are doing, like Mia said, I just want to reiterate that this has been a long time coming, and we're very much appreciative of your all's efforts, the board's efforts, everybody that, you know, have blood, sweat, and tears in all of this, because it's going to make a difference, and your model is amazing.
Thank you.
And I really want to say welcome to the team, and I'm going to try not to cry saying that because, you know, it's a weary road that we walk trying to help people, but I'm disheartened that more people aren't here to welcome you tonight. But just know that we're very much behind you, and the community stands to gain so much from your presence.
Thank you. Well, I can tell you we've been welcomed. I mean, literally, I went to your grocery store last night, and the cashier was like, "I cannot believe you're here. Thank you so much." The guy in front, I mean, everybody around, it was like a little revival there in the. I couldn't believe it, and they were making fun of me because I was texting about it, but. This isn't really being offered here. And so what's happening is someone in addiction in Dickenson County, they're going for very short time treatment. And I'll tell you, you are not going to overcome a decade-long opioid addiction in a week. And you're not going to do it in 20 days. That's just not, that doesn't happen. The science shows it doesn't happen. And you can load someone full of Suboxone and say that you've cured them because they're not doing heroin, but you've just substituted one for another. So that's not what we do, and this is a long-term treatment. I know I'm now way in trouble, but he's probably going to report me. But
we don't load people full of Suboxone. There
we
is
don't.
medically assisted treatment when
Yeah.
the treatment comes in the medically
No, we don't do that. Well, I'm saying we don't do that, and that's not what we're talking about here. I understand there's a role for that, it's harm reduction. I get that, but that's not that's not the model that we do here. We're not a short-term program because we want you to have long-term success in recovery. We want to give someone a life they don't need to escape from, and that's what we're talking about. So that's what the career portion is there about. Yeah.
And I can say, I see the girls come in, there's very few that they even give Suboxone to. And when they do give it to them, they are taken off of it within 14 days. And I know that for a fact, because I assist with me there, so
that is a fact.
It does help people stay in treatment longer, so I do think there's a use, and I'm not, there's some people who are in treatment, they say, we're against it completely. We're not, and we do feel like there's a use for it. But this is not a Suboxone clinic. There's not a long line every day of people taking Suboxone. When they leave, the goal is that they're not taking anything.
Will you be accepting commercial insurance also, or is this for Medicaid?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both, and we're working on the accreditation for Virginia Medicaid into Kentucky so that we'll be able to share, because we do have resources within Kentucky as well. Right now, like we do have a women's center that's not too far from here, White Oak Hill in Inez. So we do want to do that, and that'll help with some of our vocational programs to make them available. I hope that answers your question. So we do take Medicaid, we do take private insurance, we take private pay, and if you don't qualify for any of those, we'll take you for free, quite frankly. So that's what we do. So we do grace beds too, occasionally.
Just one more question. I also serve on the Family Assessment and Planning team in Dickenson County. And that, of course, votes for funds, to keep kids here, to get services here, and a lot of times those services are also for the family members. And so we have a lot of people who have refused treatment elsewhere because they don't want to go so far away from their children. And so a question I feel like we probably need to know is what is that policy there with family sessions or children during that year?
That's a great point. That's a great question.
Yeah,
We have a lot of that.
So first of all, you're right, and the closeness of the recovery to your home affects recovery outcomes. So our data shows that most people attend treatment within 50 to 60 miles of their home, and that's really great because we want to be able to make sure that they have connections to that network. And people whose families come, same thing with jail. When people's families come visit them in jail, they have a better likelihood of success when they leave. So it's the same thing with recovery. During the first 30 days, there's no visits allowed for anybody. They get phone calls and they're monitored. I mean, it's very strict. It's 24-hour line of sight supervision. And it's just like raising a child, kind of. If you have a toddler, you're really a lot of supervision, right? Then they step down to the next level of treatment. Family members do come. We do have weekend visitation, and the family members come onto campus and visit with our clients. So we'll have people coming into the community during those visits, and again, everyone in the center is drug tested weekly. We monitor those visits, but they come during that phase 3, that third phase of treatment. Now you're stepped down, so it's in most treatments in Kentucky, you've been released at that time. So that's our outpatient level of treatment. You get a pass on Saturdays and a pass on Sundays, 10 hours each day, so you can go home. And we want to kind of monitor. We want to kind of gradually step you in, right? To kind of a little like the frog in the pot of water, right? You kind of want to turn it up slowly so that they'll have better success. And then on your phase 4, they're home for 3 days and they're with us for 4 days. And so we kind of step them into that. And we do have family unification courses that we're offering at some of our centers. So depending on the need and what we can get people here, that is very important. So we do those family reunification. Guys need anger management classes. There's all kinds of, and you're familiar with that, and we're providing those in our centers to make sure our case managers are working through those things. But, yeah.
Do you all coordinate too with other services during the process?
We do, yeah.
Families are receiving other services.
Our case managers do that. So a lot of guys come in, a lot of times, in long-term addiction, they've let everything go. So we get guys who have medical conditions that, they need to seek medical help. So we met with your hospital today, and we're talking about that. You've got, blood pressure issues, diabetes, people with surgeries. We had a guy come in one day, he was wearing one contact from a friend that he had for 4 months, and it had fused to his eye, so we had to take him for the surgery. You can't get sober when you have those kind of things going on, so we want to address those. And then our case management is working with like the local court systems. You've got guys who may have had a traffic ticket and they just didn't show up back up to court, so we're working through those things because that is the way to have that long-term success. We want to make sure we're taking care of those triggering issues and triggering events. A lot of guys need to do the domestic violence counseling, they need to do the anger management, those types of courses. For custody issues, our case managers work through all those things. And we do work with outside agencies, especially on the housing component for guys who are not going to stay with us. So we work through all those things. To us, our success, we want to see them have long-term success. So we invest a lot in that backside.
Mr. Chair, if I could add one thing, he mentioned housing. I'm just going to take a minute to plug. Mr. Peters is on the phone, but he sits on the board of another project we've been working on as far as recovery housing. Next week, our recovery housing will be opening for women. They'll be accepting, up to 9 women who are in recovery, whether they be in drug court, graduated from drug court, whatever, need a place to stay. It's a grant-funded program. We're working on a men's place right now. We're trying to find a residence that we can lease somewhere, 4 to 5 bedrooms. This is kind of outside of the Board of Supervisors. It's not something that they're doing, but it's with the drug court coordinator, Cheryl Robinette. I've been helping them. Mr. Peters on the phone, he's been helping them. But we also think, separate from ARC and what we're doing, there's still a need. Lots of times whenever people go through drug court or go through this, they don't have anywhere to go except back home or back with the friends where they were in trouble before. So it's another thing we're kind of trying to get started up here in the county right now on that. So just want to take a minute to put a plug in for that.
I just have a quick comment. So I grew up here in Dickenson County and moved away right after high school, for 35 years, but I've always had a desire to come back and see what I can do to help the community where I grew up. So I moved back about a year and a half ago, and I've created a high-level framework that I'm now calling it a framework to improve the standard of living. And it's kind of interesting after what you talked about. The mission is to improve the standard of living in economically depressed communities through economic development and public health interventions. Sounds a lot like what you're doing here, with a vision to establish best practice models for communities striving to improve their standards. So it's like what you're doing is really tailor-made for what I'm interested in. So I'd be very interested in talking with you guys later to see how I can plug in and be part of what you're doing.
Sure, and one thing we do, every community where we serve, we establish what we call the local advisory boards made up of local folks from the community, and that's kind of our conduit where we can communicate to the community can communicate with us. We give that board $5,000 every year where they can invest in the community with the only stipulation it can't benefit ARC. So you can give it to a Little League team or do something downtown, but you can't beautify the road up to our center. It has to be something legitimate. So we want to give back to the community. So yes, we will have more public hearings like this. We want to make sure we answer the questions of the community. We need to also talk with the city officials. So we'll be back. We'll be here often. They've got a room for me over at the Sleep Inn. So before I go, unless there's any other questions,
Ms. Kaiser, I think yes.
Well, I don't really have a question. I have been able, by being serving on the board, to visit the center in Pikeville and to visit the one down in Inez.
Okay.
And the facilities are real nice. They are real clean. Everybody, all of the people that was there was nothing out of line when we all came through, and it's wonderful. I'm glad to see this, and I'm glad to see that Mia can be an example to our citizens in the county. I probably knew her and her sister Megan when they were younger because I worked at McClure Lumber, and I knew Mike and Cappy, your grandparents, Lois and Dewey, and Pauline probably, and then after you all left out of McClure, I just wasn't all that close anymore. And I never seen you during those bad years, but I'm glad to see you on the other side of those, and that you can be a light and a witness and an encouragement to the other younger people, older people, whoever they may be. And I'm pleased to see that. And I knew all of Cappy's brothers and sisters and went to school with Barry, and I am sure they are all proud of you. I'm sure.
Thank you. That's what it's all about. I look at Vanessa. I look up to her.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. I hope I can be a light to somebody.
Right.
In this community.
Right.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And I'd say there's probably never a day that went by that two people didn't shed a tear for you than Mike and Cappy.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Got a lot to be proud of right here, sir.
Mm-hmm. Sir, I do. I am very proud.
That's awesome.
It's tough to go through as a family with drug addiction. But it's a broken record. You see it so many different people. It's not just for families, but it was the arguments we had when we got together for Christmas together. But now we get together and it's a blessing. And prayers, God, and all the other things that she went through has brought her back to us. And I'm here with her tonight, her mother and her grandkids. Her kids are at a revival out town, and just a blessing to see what she's done. I'm so proud of her.
Awesome.
And I thank you
Before I leave, we created this website for you all in your community. You can scan that with your smartphones or to go to that webpage. But we are very, very proud to be a part and partner with Dickenson County. And check us out. If you have questions, you can reach out. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.